Hey guys, so in this video I'm going to show you guys how to create a tapered fuselage, and in addition to that I'll also show you guys how to create the ribs for that fuselage. So I'm going to show you guys how to create a tapered fuselage. It almost looks like this, and this would represent both a top and side view, and by that I mean it'll have tapering in both the vertical and horizontal directions. So when it comes to, I'm kind of doing this tapering with the DBF, with the DBF missions in mind for this year. One of the missions that we have is that we have to carry a 4x5, 5x5, by 10 inch long payload. So it's a pretty big payload, and it's squared off. It's 3 blocks of wood, and so that's why I have this front part of it being a flat surface. Most of your fuselages would have some kind of a more what's the word? Squared off section, not squared off if you have a round fuselage, but you get the idea. And then you'll have it tapered down to the wing, to the proximate area of where the tail is going to be fastened on. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new part. Just go to new part and call it whatever you like. I'm going to call mine taper underscore fuselage. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and to do this, you're going to use, to create the taper, you're going to use the blend tool. So it's blend protrusion. You're using Creo 2.0. Under your shape, which is where you see the big extrude button, in that same block you'll see a little arrow. Hit that arrow and it's under, and it's called blend. So I'm going to go, all these options are good, hit OK. This menu right here pops up asking you whether you want to use the straight or the smooth options. There is a difference between these. Smooth would actually do something, where's the paint tool? Almost like, so let's say that you go from this surface to this one. Yeah, okay, that's good enough. It almost have like a rounded edge, kind of like that. Whereas the straight tool would almost have like straight edges like that. Okay. So, anyways, we want the, sorry about that, the straight option, because unless you want to get all fancy, in which case it'll make manufacturing the fuselage a whole lot harder, the straight tool makes manufacturing your plane a whole lot easier. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. That's all good. I just need to hit choose the plane that I want to sketch on, in which case this one's front, and then hit OK, and then default. All that stuff's just asking how I want to set up my sketch window. So all that's good. So what I want to do is go ahead and sketch. I'm just going to do a simple square blend right now, fuselage blend. So middle click, like the roller button, middle click. And I'm going to have my thing be about 10, wait, no, 5.75. Keep in mind the tolerances, because there are tolerances on the dimensions. I believe it's a 1/8 of an inch tolerance, plus or minus 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so this shape is finished, and this represents the first base of our thing, of our blend. So we're going to go ahead and hit toggle, hold the right click, and then go to toggle section. And then do the same shape, because these first two faces represent your, oh, and it's locking on, cool. The squared off section of your fuselage. So okay, I'll go ahead and do toggle section again, And now this will represent the final shape for your tail, so the ending dimensions of your tail. And Creo is pretty awesome because it'll do all the math that it takes to tapering down to that shape. It'll do all the math for you. Okay, so go ahead, just do a square. I want the back surface to be about 4 inches. Wait, no, that's too big. 2 inches. The stop edge to be 1 inch. And I'm going to have SolidWorks do, sorry, not SolidWorks, Creo do the work for me. Sorry if I end up calling the program SolidWorks at any time. I've been using SolidWorks for DBF. So, brainwashing. Okay. Besides that. So, there you go. Okay. So now, what I just did was that I had created the square shape. This would be the back edge. To do the tapering, let's say I want even tapering. You may not want even tapering, in which case you'll want to know how it'll be located, how this back surface will be located with respect to the original, like the back surface of the squared off section of your fuselage. For now, I'm just centering it with respect to this back surface. So that's what I was doing right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit OK. Oh, no, never mind. Hit check right here, because I am done there. Now what it's asking is that it wants me to define the lengths of each of those sections. So I did each of them, but I haven't defined their lengths from each other. So with the blind, I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. This first one represents the length between those first 2 sketches, so it'll be 10. Oh, wait. It should actually be bigger than 10. But that's okay. I'll just leave it at 10 for now. This is just an example. It's not like I'm creating an actual sketch. When you guys are creating actual sketches, you want to make sure that you have it right. For this back one, this represents the one from the final face, which is the end of the tail, the end of the taper, to that middle face, which is the end of your squared off section of your fuselage. I'm going to have this be about 2 feet, so 24 inches, and the default units for Creo is in inches, pounds, and seconds, I believe. So unless you're doing simulations and doing all that stuff, you really just have to worry about the inches stuff. So yeah, the default units is in inches, and I'll show you once I'm done here. I'll show you guys how to change all that. So 24 inches. So hit OK, and OK. So there we go. So since I had chose that squared off section, it did that, and so now you have the basic shape for your fuselage. Now what you want to do is create these I guess hollowed out shape for your fuselage, so that it'll have, you can create the ribs for it if you need to do that. In which case, it's actually good to do that, because you'll get the dimensions for back here, for each of the ribs back here. So you could either just to get that back edge, just go ahead and create the, which I'll do in the future of this video, how to show you how to create the ribs for it, or you can keep on following my steps and I'll show you how to do where you end up having to get to the point where you create the spars for your trusses, if you do trusses for your thing. So I'm going to go ahead and do the protrusion tool again, the blend tool again. So blend, actually, wait, I promise I'll show you guys how to do the units. So the units, go to File, Properties. You can assign material. They actually don't have that many choices of materials, so you most likely have to go and look up the units, the density for that material, and then go into mass properties right here and change it right here, and then hit OK. That's what you do. To change the units, it's right here. You can change it to whatever you want. It's just the default. I'm used to working in inches at work, and it's what most people use. Okay. So what you want to do is to use the cut tool for this one. So go to blend. It's still a blend, but go to cut. And select the same. Okay, so hit done. Do straights. And choose this front surface. OK. Defaults. There you go. Now, references. Hit O3, and I'll just choose the ones that are not going into view, I guess you could say. Okay, done. This over to the side. I'm going to show you guys a cool little tool, and you want to use the offset tool because it's kind of like how it says. It creates and it'll allow you to use a shortcut and do an offset. With this first option, you can just choose to do one edge at a time, which is a bit of a pain. I'm going to go ahead and choose to do loop. And when you do this, be sure to keep in mind which direction the arrow is pointing. Since this one is pointing inwards, it's going in the right direction. If it was pointing outwards, you want to hit use a negative value. I'm just going to do 0.125, which is the dimension of most of the wooden spars that you'll cut and probably use to create your fuselage, unless you want to laser cut them. You could also laser cut blocks of wood, sheets of wood, to create the shape. Sorry, the headphones are hurting my ears. Okay, so go ahead and toggle to your next section, and you can try to create, let me see, do this, and okay. When I did that, be sure to keep in mind this right here. Keep in mind that the arrow here, even though it is on the right corner, is not pointing in the right direction. So this would actually end up screwing up our model at some point. It might actually be hard to tell how it's screwing it up, but it would in fact be screwing it up. So I'm going to go ahead and delete. Why isn't it deleting it? And I'm going to use the exact same process I did to create the other shape. So select loop, 0.125, combine the arrow again. So now we see that the arrows are pointing in the same directions, so it's all good. If you had, say, this is your starting point down here, it would almost create a helix kind of shape to your blend instead of having it being a straight surface like we want it to be. So these are your first two surfaces, kind of like before. So this is all good. So go close. Hold right click and do toggle selection again. And now we want the back, the end, the tab for your tail, where the tail is going to be located. So the end of your tapering. So I want to switch it to the back surface, and that's the back, apparently. Let's go to the front. So use the offset tool again to loop, and the arrow is pointing the same way again. 0.125, and keep it over your things over here now. So keep in mind where the arrow for the starting point is pointing, so it's all good. So, go ahead and hit close for those. The check mark here, and direction is good. So you hit OK. The blind tool, this blind is asking you to kind of like before, the dimensions between the two. So now that we have this whole shape, we kind of know what dimensions we want. For the first two, it is between this first edge face up there to this point right here, right before the tapering. So do 10 inches there. And now it's asking for between this one and this one, which is 24 inches, just like before. And you can go ahead and OK, and there you go. It cut away the material on the inside. If you're wanting to use a laser cutter to create frames for your fuselage, these are almost the steps that you need to take to do that. Okay, so now the next step that I'll show you guys is how to actually create the ribs for your fuselage. So the easiest way to do this is to just go ahead and use the extrude tool on this front surface. So this is a shortcut that I like, so not to have to drag my mouse all the way over here, which is actually not that far of a reach, but whatever. Hold right click, and then that menu will pop up, and just hit that sketch internal features, or sketch, whatever. So this is all good. The sketch plane is top, which is what I want. It'll automatically select a reference plane, so it's all good. What I want to do is go in and add some more references. Go to sketch, references, and select the edges that I want. Okay. So that's good. What I want to do now is to create where each of the groups will be located. I am doing this wrong again. Okay. Okay. So this would represent that block would represent the space between each of your ribs, whereas this little gap right here, where there is actually no enclosed space, by that I mean within the lines, represents where your rib is going to be. 2.5, which is the thickness of most sheets of wood or that you might end up using. So I actually don't know how long I want to make this, so I'm just gonna start by using random values. Let's start with 3 inches for now. And now when I create the second gap, so 3 inches, and this one is 0.125. And actually go back into the references. I want to select this edge. No, do it. Just the edge. And the reason why is because you want to have a spar that is resting right on the edge of this. And I'll show you what I mean. So imagine that this I did not mean to do that. Okay, so there you go. So you have this very back edge, so it'll go down like this, that way. This very back edge represents the edge of your rib. So this one would be 3 inches, and notice that that is off. So we've got 10 inches. So you got 3. Not down. Where's the dimensions tool? Okay, I'm gonna create a reference dimension between these two. Wait, no. Okay, click. Okay, there you go. 3 inches there. No. whereas I want to create an actual dimension between these two. The reason why is that you cannot over-dimension when you're creating your shape, you cannot over-dimension your drawing. So I cannot have each of these that I can actually modify are called driven dimensions. I cannot have so let me see, I have how many gaps in the Y direction? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 7 dimensions that play for the gap from this edge right here to this bottom edge. So what I mean by you can't have it being overdriven, you can dimension out 6 of the gaps, but you can't dimension or have a driven dimension for that 7th gap. So that 7th gap has to be reliant on the other 6 dimensions. Seems like a pretty simple concept, but yeah. So notice that not all of the gaps are even. So I'm just going to do a little bit of quick math. 5 plus 3 plus 3 divided by 3, so 3.167. See? Can't modify it. But that's because it's reference. So 3.167, and close enough. It's all good. But also keep in mind when it comes to tight dimensions like these, they are very hard to achieve. When I sat in on the group presentations for Aviation Design on Friday, one group had a wingspan that was like 4.9949, just barely short enough of the wingspan. Yeah, keep in mind, these are really small dimensions. You could use a laser cutter. When you're assembling it, you won't have a laser cutter. You could hopefully be able to get your wing within that close of the specification. You'd have to have like Lockheed Martin grade manufacturing capabilities in order to do that. So, sorry, I didn't mean to be all sarcastic there. It's just, something to keep in mind. What I'm just gonna go ahead and create a whole bunch of random shapes. I'll do them one by one. Ooh, wait. So, I'll show you guys how to use. I'm gonna fix that itch using the constraints. Oh, it just happened. Okay, so constraints. Sorry, it'll take me a minute to find where they are. Oh, there you go. Here are the constraints. Sorry. It's been a little bit out of practice with Elements, which is almost like Wildfire 4.0. A while ago, they've upgraded all the computers at Lockheed to be Creo 2.0, Creo Parametric. So, yeah, we don't really use them anymore because files between the two are actually not compatible between the two, and I should not have it being driven like that. The reason why is because sometimes you might want more ribs back here and more trusses or spars, depending on how you're going to create your structure back here, because you're going to have a lot of weight from well, not a whole lot of weight really, but you're going to have weight from your tail, your empennage back there. So, creating shapes. way, the 3 inches I'm putting in there right now is just kind of like before. It's just temporary for now. And so I can put all the shapes in there and see how it looks. You'll want them to be about as evenly spaced as possible. Unless, you know, like I said before, you want more spars in the back here. You want more ribs and spars and trusses if you want them. Okay, so one last gap. And yeah, I got to use my favorite little tool. So this one is the delete segment tool. If you have any extra little edges sticking out of the shapes that you want, kind of like this little example right here, you can just use this tool. And you can click it with the left clicker, just left click this, or drag it across and delete it. It works both ways. So 0.125 and 0.5. You got a gap. Dimension tool, just select the 2 edges, middle click. Okay, so yeah. So now I want to figure out what all these edges are. So use the reference tool for all the edges where there is a dimension. Three inches there, 3 inches there. Actually dimension this one. Nope, it's okay, so this one is driven by a constraint there. So that one's good, that one's driven, that one's not. So 3, 3. That one's not driven. Or is it dimensioned out? Okay, so that one's 2. That one is controlled by this dimensions, that one's the same. Okay. Now to make them even, actually, just do that. Kind of. Yeah, that didn't really work. That's why. Yeah, so mostly modeling is just a lot of troubleshooting, figure out where things went wrong. So there you go. So now you got a little bit of a closer look back there, whereas all of these down to the flat, where it starts to become straight and not tapered, is good. So that's all good. Go hit OK. Notice that now it's creating solid shapes. So reverse the direction on that, and then do the remove material, just this button right here, and it should delete the stuff, the model from the edges that you don't want it. So there you go, you have the frame for your fuselage. The reason why this is helpful is because when you use the laser cutter, you're gonna have to create a drawing for it, and that's how the laser cutter will cut it. That, or it just makes modeling it easier. Okay, so that wraps it up for this workshop. If you guys have any questions concerning aviation design, then you can just ask your leaders, the project leaders, and they can pass it on to me. or they could hopefully answer it themselves. If you're not watching this as a part of Aviation Design, then you can just go to our club's website at AIAAUCF.com, and you can, I am Marissa Benzato, so you can contact me on using that email. Cool. So, yeah, that wraps it up for this workshop. Thanks for... Thanks for